Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Simone here, and today we have another recent reads or what I read video. I decided to start calling them what I read videos because I think recent reads is like it's a bit assuming that I've read them recently, depending on how up to date I am with the filming. So I thought I would do a what I read and just do a few at a time in the order that I read them. This time we have a massive mix of things. There's a mix of genres, there is a mix of ratings, and so I thought I would talk to you about those. So the first book that I read was The Naughtiest Girl is a Monitor. In the last one I did, I talked about the second book in this series, and this one is the third book. This is the third book in the Naughtiest Girl series by Enid Blyton. And I really liked this one. This one was definitely a 4-star. This one brings in the character of Arabella, who is horrendous, but I love her anyway. And I think her and just Rosemary and just the new people that come into this one I really enjoy. And I know this is where I start to really love the series as it continues. If you didn't know, The Naughtiest Girl is a book that follows Elizabeth, who in the first book she decides she's going to be the naughtiest girl because she doesn't want to be at this boarding school that she's been sent to, and so she decides she's going to be the naughtiest girl that she can be so that they will expel her and send her home so that she doesn't have to go again. But she starts to realise that actually she kind of likes it there, and if she behaved a bit more she might make some friends and have a great time. So that's what she does, and each book then talks about different things. As you can tell, the third book, The Naughtiest Girl is a Monitor, so she has been given that honour, and it's about her trying to figure out how to help the people around her and sometimes putting her foot in it a little bit. But yeah, I really loved this one, and it was a 4-star read for me. Next up I read an audiobook, and it was the sequel to a book that I really enjoyed last year. I've actually read this one before, but I wanted to reread this one before I go on to book 3 and the final book in the trilogy. This one is Girl Online on Tour by Zoe Sugg. This is the second middle book and the middle book to the Girl Online series. The final one I think is going solo, which I do own and I do want to read, but I wanted to reread this middle book, like I said. This follows a girl named Penny who has a online blog, and in the first one she blogs her experiences in life in general, and then she meets a boy named Noah who turns out to be a international rock god, and in this book he has gone on tour, and she joins him. And I really love it. I think it's really fun because Penny has a lot of anxiety, and it's really talked about well in this book. I know that Zoe herself, who is Zoella on YouTube if you didn't know, Zoe has anxiety herself, so I think the way that she's written this is really authentic, and it felt really good to read about it. I love Penny's best friend Elliot. He's one of my favourite characters, and this book in general was just it was just really fun to reread. I really liked the audiobook. It's narrated by Hannah Toynton, who is one of my favourite. She used to be on Hollyoaks, and I loved that when I used to watch that when I was younger. So I feel like Hannah Toynton is just great, and her voice did this justice, and I really loved this. So again, this one was a 4-star, and I cannot wait to read the next one. Next up, sadly, we do have a DNF for this video, and I feel like this was more wrong time rather than wrong book, and this is The Wonder by Emma Donoghue. Now, I've mentioned before that I don't really like Room by Emma Donoghue because I feel like it's written from a child narrator perspective, and I don't like that very much, but I do really like her writing. The Wonder, I don't know, there was just something about it that I just couldn't get into, and I found I'd been reading it for a week and I was maybe 30 pages in, and I feel like that's at a point where I realised that the book's probably not for me. The Wonder is a book about an Irish nurse. The Wonder follows an English nurse who goes to Ireland to where she's been asked to basically keep an eye on this girl who has said that she's not eaten any food for I think it's a couple of months, and they don't really believe her. Some people think that she's a new kind of, sent from God, and other people think that she's making it up. So basically, this nurse has been sent to keep watch over her 24 hours a day, basically, to make sure that she's not consuming any food and to see if this is right or if it's not. And there seems to be something going on, and I was really intrigued to read it. But like I said, I read maybe, I ended up getting 52 pages into it, and then I just couldn't keep going. There's something about it that I just wasn't enjoying. I do think potentially it's a book that I'd revisit in the future, maybe at a different time when I was, you know, more interested in it, but I don't know, there was just something about this one that I don't know if maybe Emma Donohue's writing is just not for me, although I think her writing was good in the first one. I feel like, I don't know, there's just something about it that just puts me off, so perhaps not. Next up, I did a buddy read with the lovely Leanne from Literary Diversions, and we read Pet by Akwaeke Emezi, and this book was so good. This is a fantasy novel that was just really interesting and really well written. I think Akwaeke Emezi had written this in such a way that I just was really intrigued by their writing. Like, there's just something about it that is really kind of evocative, and I don't know, that I don't really even know how to explain this. So this follows a girl named Jam who has lived with in a place called Lucille, where there is no monsters, and they don't mean necessarily monsters like the creepy under the bed type monsters. This means there's no homophobia, there's no you know, abuse in any way really. It's all been got rid of by these angels that came down. And then Jam, like I say, has lived in this world, and one day she cuts herself and touches a painting accidentally that her mum, or she drops a drop of blood onto a painting that her mum has done. The mum is a painter, and she's made this really abstract painting, and she drops this drop of blood by accident onto this canvas, and suddenly this creature emerges named Pet, and Pet tells her that there is a monster that he has come to search for, and it is in her best friend Redemption's house, and then it goes from there. And this, like I said, was just really interesting. This book is incredibly diverse. It follows you know, there's trans characters in here, there's non-binary characters, the main characters are black main characters, and there is also Jam also communicates by signing rather than speaking. She's electively mute, and I think this was amazing. I really enjoyed reading this. It's also a really quick read. It's not a very big book at all, and the writing in this, like I said, was just really, really well done. And yeah, I would highly, highly recommend that you pick this one up if you haven't already, because I loved it. And a massive thank you to Charlie for sending this to me. This one was a 4-star for me. Then the penultimate book for this video is Persuasion by Jane Austen. I finally have read all of Jane Austen's novels, and I'm very excited by it. Persuasion, I feel like, is one of those books that not everybody loves, but I actually really liked this one. This follows Anne Elliot, who has kind of, because of her circumstances, 7 years earlier, she was kind of forced to break off an engagement to a naval captain named Captain Wentworth, and she, by her family, she was kind of it was seen as improper, the way the kind of stations of each of them. And this now is 7 years later, and she encounters them again, and she's starting to believe potentially there's a second chance, but now she's not sure how he feels about her or how she feels about him. And it's really interesting, and there's lots of commentary about kind of like, should you do what people tell you to do, or should you just stick with your heart? And I think this was really nice and like a fun read. This was only 200 pages. It's not a very long book again, but I don't know, there's something about this was really compelling read. I personally, like I said, have really enjoyed Jane Austen, her other books, and I feel like Persuasion often gets quite a bad rap, but actually I really liked this one. This was a 4-star read. I don't think it's my favourite Jane Austen book by any means, but it's also not my least favourite. That will always go to Sense and Sensibility. But yeah, I think this one was just really eloquently written, as always, for Jane Austen, and I'm really glad that I finally managed to read all of her novels that she published. And then finally, we have a book that I read on my Kindle. This was a 3-star. It was a fine book. It's a YA book, and it was, like I said, there was nothing groundbreaking, let's put it that way. This was Burn for Burn by Jenny Han and Siobhan Vivian, and I've read Jenny Han books before. I have read the first book in her P.S. I Love You series, and also I've read The Summer I Turned Pretty first 2 books in that trilogy. And I do enjoy her books. They're often like really easy to read. Burn for Burn follows 3 girls who live on this island basically, and each one of them has a kind of something that's happened to them in the past that's kind of made them. Thank you. I got a cup of tea. Thank you very much. It's a Christmas mug. See? Now I'm Santa. Thank you. Oh. Ho ho ho. Ho ho ho. But this book, and basically each one of these 3 girls has somebody that they want revenge against, and they essentially team up together to get revenge on the other 3 to get revenge on the 3 people in general. One of the girls is actually friends with one of the other people's revenge target, so it becomes a bit awkward, but they decide that they're going to do it in order for them not to be found out, because nobody will suspect them because they're not the person. They don't have a motive to be, you know, to cause the problems for these other people basically. And it was interesting. I didn't like the ending of the first book. Like, I liked the start. Like, it was a good sort of start. First, like, 50 pages was really good. And then it started to get a bit boring and I got a bit slow. And then we got to the, like, towards the end, and I was like, oh, okay, I think this is picking up now. It was starting to get really interesting again. And then the ending, I mean, I feel like the ending was a massive rip-off of another book that I've read. And I'm not going to go into many details. Like, firstly, I thought this was contemporary. It turned into kind of have a bit of a fantastical element to it, I guess. I won't go into any detail because I don't want to spoil anything, but this just massively ripped off another really popular book for me. And I then read that part and was kind of like, oh, I don't really want to read this anymore. This does have another 2 books in the series, I think, and I'm not that intrigued by them, and I don't think that I will continue the series because this was just like okay for me. This was a 3-star read, and for me, yeah, it really wasn't for me. Those are the 6 books that I have read recently. These are my what I read. I think we're on number 6 now, which is really cool. Let me know in the comments down below what the most recent book you read is, and if you've read any of these and what you thought of them. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time, guys. Bye!